Hey everyone. Looking back on these 5 years, I'm amazed how this space has grown, not in just numbers, but in heart. Your messages, your stories, they've shown me that we all need a place to pause and connect. So, I have created Calm It Down Deeper. It's everything you love about the podcast, plus daily affirmations, guided meditations, and early ad-free access to episodes. For just $5 a month, there's even a free trial, and right now, there's 20% off. So head over to calmitdownpodcast.com if you want to go deeper in your calm. Look for Calm It Down Deeper. You'll see it there. Thank you. Now, let's begin today's episode. I was watching this documentary on a wildlife sanctuary where they rescued elephants. I know, it's the things you watch. But the guide shared something that struck with me ever since. When baby elephants are trained, they tied a stake to the ground with a rope. So the baby elephant pulls and it pulls, but it can't break free. Eventually it stops trying. But the heartbreaking part is when that elephant grows up, strong enough to uproot an entire tree, it still believes that the stake is holding in its place. Not because it can't break free, but because it's learned long ago that trying, absolutely useless. But so it never questions the limitation again. I've been thinking about that elephant quite a bit lately. Like all of the invisible stakes that we're tied to, the unwritten rules that we follow without question, rules that we've absorbed so long ago, we don't even remember when they were planted in our minds. Ones like, don't stand out too much. Success looks like this, not that. Good people always say yes. Or, this is just how things are done. Oh my word, come on. Last week, I actually caught myself following one of these invisible rules. A friend had invited me over for dinner when, without even thinking, I thought, I should bring a bottle of wine. A completely normal gesture, but what struck me was how anxious I was about it. I know, right? I worried about picking the right wine. I used to be a wine director back in the days of waiting tables, so I know a decent bit about wine. But something was like, don't get it too cheap, but don't be too expensive. Something that wouldn't make me seem out of touch or overly extravagant, right? Have you been there with this? So I stood in the wine aisle, like frozen with stress over this choice that in reality didn't really matter as much as I had made it out to be. And then it hit me. Where did this rule come from? Like, who decided wine was that expected gift anyway? But why did I believe that my selection would somehow reflect my worth as a person, or even a friend, to be honest? It was a small moment, but it showed me something so much bigger. How many of my choices, significant or trivial, are guided by rules I never agreed to begin with? These unwritten rules, they shape more than just niceties. They influence our biggest life decisions, our sense of possibility, and sometimes even our identity, right? They create these invisible fences that keep us circling in familiar territory while entire landscapes are available to us. So today, I want to talk about identifying these unwritten rules and, more importantly, how we can begin to question them, bend them, or even break free from them entirely. I'm Chad Lawson, and let's calm it down in 3, 2, 1. Think about your life right now, the way that you spend your time. How much is it truly your choice? And how much is dictated by these unspoken scripts that you never wrote. We absorb these rules from everywhere, right? We get them from family, we get them from culture, from social media, even the stories that we actually consume. And they're powerful because they rarely are stated outright. You know what I mean? Like instead, they operate like background noise. They're subtle, they're constant, and they're never questioned. Some of these rules, they may have served a purpose at one time, right? Maybe your people-pleasing tendencies, they kept the peace in a really stressed and volatile home. Or maybe following the conventional path just felt safer in a really unpredictable world. But here's the real question. Are you ready? Are these rules still serving you now? Or are you like that elephant that's being held back by something that you could easily uproot if you just remembered your own strength? Are these rules still serving you now? Here, I want to do a quick little exercise together, okay? Gentle breath in and out. Think of a recent decision that you made. Could be anything from what you wore today to a major life choice, right? Just think of a decision that you've made. Now ask yourself, why did I make this choice? Was it because it truly aligned with my values and my desires? Maybe, perhaps so. Or was it because I was following an unwritten rule about what I should do, quote unquote? I had a realization about this recently, to give you an example. For years, I forced myself to stay up late to create music. I was convinced that real artists were night owls, right? I mean, that's the myth anyway. We are the tortured geniuses working by candlelight, fueled by insomnia and caffeine. But when I finally questioned that ideology, that belief, I discovered that my most creative hours are actually first thing in the morning, before the emails, before the distractions, before the world gets noisy. And when I embraced that, everything changed. My work improved. I was happier. I was rested. I'd been forcing myself into a creative process that worked for others, but was just completely wrong for me. How long did that take for me to realize? So what might happen if you questioned one of those unwritten rules in your own life? Well, the tricky thing is, these rules are so deeply embedded that a lot of times we don't even recognize them, that they just feel like reality. Hey, just checking in. Are you still listening? Either you're really enjoying this or your headphones are tangled in your hair again. You know, it happens. But while you're here, I want to talk about Calm It Down Deeper. Think of this as your all-access pass to Calm, with all the episodes, early access, 0 ads. You're not going to be hearing them like you are right now. Plus exclusive meditations and behind-the-scenes content that'll make you feel like you've got the cheat codes to relaxation. So if you are ready to deepen your calm, head over to calmitdownpodcast.com and look for Calm It Down Deeper. Or don't, it's okay, but just know that you're missing out on the equivalent of finding out your favorite coffee shop has a secret menu. It does. Go ask. All right, back to it. So the first step in breaking free is creating awareness. Start noticing when the word should appears in your thoughts. I should be further along in my career. That's one that we say a lot to ourselves. I should want to have kids, right? I should be more disciplined. That word should is often a a red flag, right? Pointing to an unwritten rule. It's a neon light, right? So then get curious. Where did this neon light, this red flag, this rule, where did it come from? Is it a family expectation? Is it a message from social media? Is it a cultural norm that you've just never questioned? But when we can identify the source, we can loosen the rule's grip that's so tied around us. So next I want you to ask yourself, is this rule true? Is this rule actually helping me live the life that I want to live? Because not all unwritten rules are harmful. Some provide some valuable structure, right? There's a reason for them that makes sense. But the goal isn't to discard every guideline, but to really just be conscious, right? To choose which ones deserve your attention, right? And one of the most limiting unwritten rules many of us follow is that we should always prioritize other things, someone else's comfort for our own truth. Have you ever thought about that? One of the most limiting unwritten rules that many of us follow is that we should always prioritize someone else's comfort over our own truth. I spent most of my life as a chronic people pleaser, saying yes when I meant to say no, agreeing when I disagreed, just to avoid conflict at all costs, right? So last year, I decided to experiment with this, decided to experiment with creating clear boundaries. So the very first few times I said no, I physically felt ill, like heart racing, palms sweating. I was convinced I was ruining a relationship, a friendship. But you know what actually happened? Most people respected the boundary. Some were a little disappointed, right? I mean, it's to be normal, but they moved on. And the relationships that couldn't survive my honest no, they probably weren't healthy to begin with. So breaking free from unwritten rules, it's not about rebellion for its own sake. It's not. It's about reclaiming your own right to make intentional choices rather than living on autopilot. Because sometimes freedom comes from questioning rules that are so ingrained that we don't even see them. Like the idea of success, how it has to look a certain way, or that some emotions are unacceptable. Why is that? Or that our worth is tied to how productive we are. I have a friend who actually left a prestigious, high-paying career that made him miserable, right? And he went on to start this small, quirky business. I've never seen him happier, right? To everybody else, they look out and they're like, that's a complete failure. He's stepping off the ladder of success. But to him, it was freedom. Freedom from a rule that had been crushing his spirit. So, this week, here is your invitation. I want you to identify one unwritten rule that might be limiting you. Write it down and then ask, where did I learn this rule? Is it actually true? Is it just something that I've been told is true? What would happen if I gently challenged this rule? And what might become possible if I weren't bound by this limitation? You don't have to make dramatic changes overnight. No one is asking that. Actually, I would caution you. But noticing these invisible constraints, because they can begin to loosen their hold when we do this. Where did I learn it? What would happen if I challenged it? And how may it be limiting me? I'm going to be honest, these aren't easy questions. So give yourself some grace, some time, some honesty, some gratitude for even asking yourself these questions, because this is a lot. Do you remember that elephant from earlier? So researchers found that if you untie an adult elephant that's been conditioned this way, a lot of times it often stays in one place. But if you place an incentive, like food, just beyond its perceived boundary, it eventually rediscovers its freedom. I wonder what would happen with a chocolate chip cookie. Anyway, sorry. But we're not so different, are we? I mean, these small steps, right? They bring us beyond our limitations, and they can remind us of our own strength. So what stake might you begin to uproot this week? What might be holding you in place when it hasn't been tied to you all along? Let me know. I would love to hear from you. I would love to know. May you find peace and freedom and comfort in this new awareness. And thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for living. And until next time, be kind to your mind and join me again as we calm it down. Hey, so as we wrap up, I'm reminded of why we're here. We're here to find moments of peace in our busy lives. And if you'd like more of those moments, I encourage you to check out Calm It Down Deeper. You can head over to calmitdownpodcast.com and look for Calm It Down Deeper, as you'll find that we will have guided meditations, ad-free episodes, and many more things to help you deepen your calm, and also just to build this community that we are doing this together. I hope you check it out. Either way, thank you for being here. And until next time, be kind to your mind. To find more episodes of Calm It Down, see where I may be appearing in your area, or just simply want to know where to send me some chocolate chip cookies, visit calmitdownpodcast.com. This podcast was written and produced by yours truly, Chad Lawson, composer, pianist, and nationally recognized Sweet Tooth. The views, expressions, and techniques in this episode are of my personal opinion and not intended, nor should they, serve as a substitute for medical advice or diagnosis rendered to you by your individual doctor or other healthcare provider. Only a licensed physician should evaluate your situation, provide a diagnosis, or render other medical advice to you, and you should only act upon the advice of this physician. Now, I'm an extreme empath by nature, but my profession is that of a composer and pianist, not a licensed therapist or physician. I hear from thousands of listeners how my music has helped them through various stages of emotional needs, and I simply want to offer this in future podcast episodes to aid those needs. So to find a list of licensed professionals in your area, please visit calmitdownpodcast.com. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review, or better yet, share it with a friend. While it takes less than 60 seconds to do, its impact will last for years to come, as every little bit helps in growing the awareness and the importance of mental and emotional health. Thank you for listening. Thank you for living. And until next time, be kind to your mind and join me again as we calm it down.